All right, what up, y'all? Still no earbuds. Maybe I'll get some money and buy some. On a beautiful morning walk. Just want y'all to understand. Look, not today. Come on now. Not today. Look, there's a bunch of stuff with neurodiversity I've been talked about the neurodiversity theory as it stands with the different dimensions, I call it. Neurodiversity as biodiversity, the neurodiversity paradigm, and the neurodiversity movement, right? You have these three different parts, three different dimensions of the neurodiversity theory that was originally first wrote about at length by Judy Singer, and then Dr. Nick Walker pulled out, extrapolated, synthesized more information of what Judy was saying. And Dr. Nick Walker, was able to identify those three dimensions. So one of the things with neurodiversity is the neurodiversity movement. It's a multicultural movement, right? Has different genders, sexual identities, different races, ethnicities, spiritual, religious, cultural backgrounds, all these different sorts of things, and different levels of ability and disability, right? So one of the pieces that's going on, by the way, I'm getting like attacked by some bugs out here. So y'all might see me like wild out. These flies have been like attacking me. So one of the things with neurodiversity, there is this war of words going on. We should say this. We should say neurodivergent and not neurodiverse. No, neurodivergent is too polarizing and it's more deficit based, so we should say neurodiverse, but neurodiverse doesn't make sense. No, we should say neurominorities. There's all this back and forth, different terms and words come out all the time, and it becomes confusing and it becomes hard for people who aren't a part of this in terms of their work or research to really start and understand what's going on. Here's one of my theories behind that. Neurodiversity tends to be an incredibly white space, and there's a lot of reasons for that, but white people aren't the only people who are neurodivergent. Everyone is neurodivergent. I don't mean like literally every person, but every demographic of people has a notable percentage of neurodivergent folks in there, more than we can really assess for. So certain groups of people, brothers, sisters, non-binary black folk, black and brown people, but I'm talking about black folks specifically, we're used to labels. I have to have this label, and I want this label, and I love this label, but this label is me. Can't go anywhere and not have this label that I have, right? But white folks don't have a label. Since white is the default, it's considered not even a race, right? Now I know like census forms and all this stuff, I'm talking about interpersonally when people conceptualize race. And if you don't believe it, think about yourself. What does it mean to be white? How do you define whiteness, right? It's really the opposite of black. This is why these two things were created. Anyway, for black folks, we're used to having labels. I'm not afraid of the labels that are within the neurodiversity movement. We want to say, nah, this isn't a disability whatsoever. This is only a strength. But that typically comes from folks who don't want that label of disability. And that's fine. I don't have any problems against that. But when you look at black folks who are in the neurodiversity movement, most of us aren't advocating that this is not a disability. We're trying to say that it's both. Everything has strengths, right? Everything has weaknesses, and every one. So for those of us adults who have been diagnosed over the past few years during this pandemic, and we're feeling affirmed and validated because things start to make sense, but also we're starting to unpack all of this now. Embrace both of these nuances to the new identity, which means you need to understand your strengths, but you need to understand your limitations. For example, for myself, during the pandemic, it was the first time in my life I actually felt disabled. And it was a very humbling experience for me. I'm a very able-bodied person. I'm physically fit. I'm strong. I have some injuries from sports and stuff, but I couldn't think the way I normally think. I couldn't concentrate. I couldn't use the coping mechanisms that I had developed very meticulously over the past 20 years to do the high volume of work I had committed myself to previously. And I was just going in loops. It was disabling. And I started to see things from a different perspective because I had already opened myself up to understanding this world that I thought I didn't really knew, but I knew. And guess what? You know too. So the point of this is, don't shy away from the truths of things, right? There's no way you can tell me that some of these experiences that we have aren't disabling. Now, you can make the argument that it's society and it's not designed for that, but that's not the normal, statistically normal design of society. I'm not saying that's right. I'm just saying that's what's going on, right? I embrace the social model of disability, but we need a combination of things, at least at this juncture of time as we develop into something else. So for those of y'all, especially Black folks, been diagnosed recently and you're adults, ADHD, autistic, dyslexic, all these things, you're trying to figure it out. Number one, welcome to the club. Boom. Number two, start to understand your strengths. Step one, start to understand your strengths. Look at the tasks that you do really well. What are those tasks? How do you do them? How do you begin the task even before you start? Like, how do you start prepping in your head? How do you work through it? You're going to start to understand how your brain organizes information. What are the things you really hate? Paperwork, administrative stuff for me. Think about how your body feels. Think about what the response is in your head. What thoughts are you thinking? Do you just feel this deep, overwhelming sense of, I can't do this, right? Those are the disabilities, right? Those are the areas of weakness. We all have areas of weakness. And I'm not saying disability means that you're weak. We all have weaknesses. We all have strengths. We are all strong. We are all smart. We are all brilliant. We're all beautiful. It's just in different ways. When we're embracing diversity and understanding diversity as a strength, because it's empirically shown to be a strength, our world is going to change. But that's going to take some time, y'all. Meantime, keep walking.